let's just sew whatever. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are making the Sophisticated Sling from Rosa Patterns. This is such a cute little bag. The changes that I have made, because you know I did, I added a slip pocket to the back, and in my cutting video I give further instructions on how I do that. You don't want to add too much of your exterior fabric so that it's super bulky, so make sure that you differentiate that. I added my D-ring connector as a standalone piece and not within my seam allowance to prevent bulk there. It's not that I misunderstood the pattern, but I just kind of guessed that this might be how it was in my head, but then I read it and was like, oh, I'm gonna do it the way I thought anyway, because you can do that, just so you know. I added this little piece of cork to my strap as an accent to tie it in without using a ton of expensive cork. For the lining, I changed up the way the zipper pocket is sewn together, but either way you're gonna get to the same finished product. The inside has card slots, slip pocket, and a zippered pocket, and it is finished off with binding. This is definitely a domestic friendly pattern depending on the materials you pick. I would say if you're going to use anything for the lining on a domestic, make sure you're using just cotton with interfacing or a water resistant canvas with no interfacing. It got a little bulky even for me, but I did use a waterproof cotton in the lining. But yeah, this is the bag all finished. I can't wait to make it with you, so let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay? Okay. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome to the sewing portion slash prep portion of making the Simplistic Sling by Rosa Pattern Company. We are going to be starting out by folding our strap stabilizer piece. Nope. Our strap piece, not strap stabilizer. I have gone ahead and sewed these pieces together. This is my change, but I just wanted to show that I did interface that. So we can also go ahead and fold our strap connector as well. And I know I'm gonna need double-sided tape along the edges of this piece too, so I'll just go ahead and do that now. Because this piece is gonna get D-rings attached and folded in, and then sewn onto the exterior back, like this. And then it's completely out of your seam allowances. Okay, let's go ahead. So within the pattern it says to like create these little packs, these bundles of your pieces, which is really awesome. Alright. Alright, we're at the skinny end of one of our strap pieces, and we're going to be marking out the center line, which should be 1 inch. Where the strap starts to taper out, continue your drawn lines at 1 inch until you meet the end of your stabilizer. And now the edge of your stabilizer should be your 1 inch mark. So if your piece is not 1 inch, this is where you would want to adjust it. So I'm going to go ahead and make those measurements on both pieces. And then we're going to add double-sided tape and fold in to the 1 inch line. Yeah. Okay. So you could even use 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape if you prefer. So I am going to lay this double-sided tape within that 1 inch line from the edge. If you put it on the outside over your stabilizer, it will be incorrect. And then up here, you could even put double-sided tape on the line since you're going to want to fold these to meet. So I'll go ahead and do that. We'll see how that works. It's not as precise, but yeah. So again, I'm adding the tape next to the 1 inch line on the outermost, next to but not over the stabilizer. And I'm going to add double-sided tape centered over my 1 inch line, or you can add double-sided tape on either side of the center line. Up to you. And having a seam roller can help. So I've got this one from Zorel. It's rainbow, of course. I'll start down here. So you could certainly try to do right sides together and then turn, but you would hate yourself after, more or less. So we're just folding right up to that 1 inch line right next to our stabilizer. We're not going over it. So you can use your seam roller to help flatten that out. If you're using a material or a vinyl that's not sticking well, you can also use clips, and then I wouldn't waste too much time before sewing it. So there's what that looks like. Nice and crisp. And I'm going to peel off this tape. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now. I'm just going to peel this one slowly, I think. Oh, there we go. And bring those edges into 1 inch line. And then to make sure there's no bubbling, you want to make sure that you don't go too far on either side, so that your fabric isn't like twisting across the grain. Looking good. And then, I have that little cork, this cork overlay piece. So I guess I'd want to cut this at an angle right here. This is absolutely not part of the pattern. I just wanted to fancy this piece up a little bit. So I'm cutting this at an angle. I'm going to repeat those steps as far as making that 1-inch line and folding up to it. And the reason I kind of mitered that corner, I might have to cut more, is just to prevent an excess of bulk. Luckily, cork isn't too bad. You can see that's what that looks like, and it's not super bulky. Tape this over top. Ooh, I really like that. It kind of mimics the straps that we're used to making with the one piece that has webbing out of it, but isn't. All right, and then we'll repeat, and then we're gonna lay those together, clip them, and top stitch. If your machine does not like double-sided tape, be very careful with this. Good luck. Godspeed. If you're using a cotton fabric like I am, you could absolutely iron this in place. You would have minimal issues. I love how minimal hardware this bag is. You just need 2 3/4-inch D-ring, 1-inch slider, and 1-inch snap hook. If you are looking for a ready-to-go hardware kit, we do offer them on my website now. You would just need to select your hardware color for each piece within the listing, and then we have also like suggested items on the bottom of the page that you could add as well. But that is something new we have worked to add to the website. Okay. So then I am going to add another piece of double-sided tape to line up both pieces. and then sew them together. Okay, so much fun. I love this. Okay, so there's our strap ready to sew. The other prep that we want to do before we go to our machine is our card slot measurements. Which are given in the pattern, so I don't want to discuss out loud. But you want to make sure these are nice, straight measurements. And something I do if I have trouble remembering what I've traced is I will write it down in a little corner so that I can kind of go, all right, this one, this one, this one, this one, and now I do the next one, etc. But it is alternating measurements, so that kind of helps. Okay. So there's that. And then when we go to sew this, what we're going to do is kind of fold that down. And this is our first line to top stitch. And then repeat. This is our next line to top stitch, so we'll fold that in itself. And I am not lining my ruler up exactly to that trace line because the ruler has depth. So I'm folding it with the ruler just ever so slightly under that mark. And then you can seam roll in a nice crisp edge, or you could iron it. The seam roller works surprisingly well. Like, oh my god. I don't know why I'm so surprised. Like, it exists for a reason. Is that right? Alternating right side and wrong side. No. So I'm doing it wrong. The first one is correct. The second one is wrong. That one is correct. So this one gets folded this way. Which I feel like I knew that. But you're not top stitching the wrong side pieces together. But now you can see it creates card slots. Yeah, I'm glad we got there. I felt like that was wrong. Wait a minute. So each one should be about 1/2 inch from the other. So if I want to eyeball it on that other fold, you can. There we go. So that is our card slot pieces prepped, ready to go. And then it seems like what you end up doing is you're actually going to sew these free edges together to create a finished edge on the bottom of your card slots, because on your lining it gets placed up a little bit higher to prevent bulk within your seam allowances. So all of our table work prep is pretty much ready to go, so we can clean up and head to our sewing machine. I'm going to start by top stitching the strap, and then don't forget, if you're adding like this little piece here, to either add a tag or just make sure you stitch it closed, basically. I may end up top stitching this twice. I'm a little worried I won't catch all my layers at once, but maybe. Maybe not. I have not sewn in a couple of weeks. Boy, does it feel good. Alright, I think we're safe to continue stitching. So I think to get back to it, I'm going to start here. And then carry on. And then for this end, if you want to, could fold these under. I don't know if it says to do that in the pattern or not, but this will create a completed end. Just make sure that you snip that extra fabric if you want to make sure you can't see a little tiny hint of it on the back side. So we're gonna end up adding a slide adjuster and snap hook to our strap. Let me go get those. All right, so we're gonna attach our slider around the bar. Pretty much slide that up as far as you want to go with it. And then we're gonna add the snap hook. Make sure it's not twisted. We're gonna press this up and out of the way around the slider. Come up the front, or go to the top above the slider, and then come wrap around the slider. And this will complete the strap so that you can adjust it and your snap hook is attached. You can either secure that with rivets or add some stitching. And so you can see this can only adjust so far before your fabric will start to kind of warp within it. That's okay though. So I'm gonna fast forward to step 12 and add our connector to the back. Oh, okay. I'm so silly. For some reason I thought that we added I thought that the back panel slide snap I thought this thing on the back panel was folded in to stay out of our seam allowances, but it is not. If you know your machine can't handle that thickness, I would say you could fold it in. You could also make just little snap hooks off to the side, but I'm gonna grab some 3/4 inch D-rings because I did not grab any of my hardware. And we will attach them. So I'm gonna top stitch this. This is not what the pattern says to do, but I'm gonna top stitch this at 1/4 inch in. Probably should have taken my double-sided tape off first. But I think I'm going to add this, like I said. I think that could be cool. You just want to make sure that it's well out of the way for your seam allowance. I feel like it will be. So I folded it over each edge by like 1 inch. I'll just use a little piece tape to sew that down. And then I will add rivets as well. So this gets placed 1.5 inches up from the bottom line. And we want to make sure we center it as well. Yeah, I like that. I think it's cute. So then what we want to do is top stitch it on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Oh man. Okay, so I'm going to add 2 rivets, one there, and then make sure that you fold those in when you continue the rest of the bag. And then another disclaimer, this next part is not part of the pattern. It is not part of the pattern, but it is a change that I am creating along the back panel, which was to make this into a slip pocket. So I'm going to line up these edges, and because I want a slight overlap, not butted up against each other, I'm just going to do like a 1/4 inch seam allowance and top stitch that. And then line that up. So you can see there I've just got a slight overlap, but you could also say that you don't want that overlap and just butt them up next to each other. Just keep in mind that if you didn't use the correct seam allowances, you're going to have that overhang. But like I said, I want these right over top. And because eventually you baste your lining to this piece too, you could wait, but I'm just going to put it all together now so that it's done. And so now we've got our slip pocket and our connectors there. And that's our back panel. Here is the front. So they should match up in size. Ugh, so pretty. I'm going to add the strap before I move on. Make sure that you know which side you want to face up. So if you're wearing the bag, you want the wrong side down. Right side face up on that back panel. So let's go ahead and mark our center along the top as well. And then I'll baste that down into place. And then we will set this aside for now and work on our lining and gusset. We are going to move on to our card slots now. So we're going to grab that pack, which will consist of our card slots, one of our lining pieces, and then our 2 mirrored side panels. And we're going to start by just top stitching all of these top edges. Yes, it looks like there are 4. Just wanted to confirm. So as I'm top stitching, I'm just going to be shifting the top stitch layer out of the way. So now that we have those top stitched, we are going to be folding this back short edge and this front short edge together. I have this mark here. That is my 4-inch from the previous line that we needed to mark out in the pattern, but it doesn't say that it needs to be trimmed specifically to that. So I'm just going to use that as my seam allowance because I don't think that is going to matter in the pattern. Well, hello, thank you, Bobbin. So nice of you. Why do I have 3 orange bobbins? Okay, I'm just doing some bobbin dumping. This is a lot easier to do with rainbow thread, I feel like. So I have the Fairy Floss Tex 70 from Wizardry in my machine, and then I've got a little bit smaller of a, no, I have a little bit bigger of a Tex in the bobbin, but it's not causing me any issues. Okay, so I'm just trimming down that seam allowance, and then I'm gonna flip this back through. Alright, so it doesn't actually make sense for that to become the new bottom. So just lay your panel flat that makes sense to these pieces. And essentially what this is doing is just offsetting the bulk of your fabric along the back side. So I'm just kind of pressing that flat, and then we're going to measure 3.5 inches in from one side. Okay. I just made a very gentle line. I didn't want to go too crazy. And I'm just going to sew down. I like to backstitch at the top of my card slots and then continue on. Okay. And now this is all going to get placed on our lining panel. 1.5 inches from the bottom edge. So the very rounded, the wider rounded edge is the bottom, and the more tapered edge is the top. So we're going to line that up. And there is a slight overhang, but we want to make sure that we center this. So I'm lining up that centered stitch line with the center mark. And then I'm going to baste the sides into place. And sew the bottom down. And then any of that excess we can just trim away. And I would suggest trimming that away so that your seam allowances are as exact as possible. And our seam allowance is essentially notch to notch. And this would be a really cute place for a woven label as well, if you wanted to add one. Just within that seam. Alright, and then you can trim down that seam allowance after you top stitch. After? Yes, okay. Top stitch the side panels and then kind of trim it down as best you can. So basically what you want to do is pull that panel up and out of the way and then just very carefully top stitch, or I'm sorry, trim down that bulk. Especially so that you can keep the shape of this bag consistent. So then we're going to repeat that on the other side. And then you can double check that your card slots actually hold cards. That's always very important. So these are nice and wide vertical slots. Yeah, they're not horizontal. They're tall. With plenty of room to like overstuff them as well. And then just repeat trimming that seam allowance down. This would be a really cute place to add a tag. I don't know how many tags in this one bag I need that say "you look really pretty today," so I think I'll omit adding that. I am, while I'm thinking about it, going to add my woven label, my metal nameplate, thank you, to this piece, because then we're going to put these wrong sides together and baste around. And that gives it a lot of nice stability with all those layers. I'm going to mark out my center while I'm here as well. I interfaced my panels yesterday, so my interfacing has had time to set, which is always a good idea, especially if you're folding pieces, etc. All right, where do I want this? So what I like to do is find the center, and my nameplate is 2 inches. So from the center, I measure 1 inch out on either side, lay my nameplate, and then I line up where the prongs sit. And I'm going to use my seam ripper to carefully open that slit and add my nameplate. And then, of course, add your washer. Then it's up to you if you want to fold your prongs in or out. And then just kind of straighten that up. So pretty. All right, and then I'm going to put wrong sides together. Remember, this bag is finished off with binding. And line up the exterior, those edges. If things aren't matching, that's okay. We can kind of trim it, and that just accounts for our seam allowances. So we're basting this at 1/8 of an inch. Also, that noise is an angry bobbin, just FYI, because this one's almost empty. Looks okay though. So now I'm going to trim this piece so it perfectly lines up with my exterior. Yeah, that feels really nice. So the card slats give this a lot of stability, and then this is also a big slip pocket there. So that feels very nice. So we're going to move on to our zippered pocket piece. That's all our gusset. So this is the other pack that we're working on. I forgot to get zippers and zipper pulls, so I'm going to do that. Good idea. I'm going to get a total of 3 zipper pulls. I'm just going to use classic pop tab pulls. And I'm going to grab a piece of zipper tape that's about 8 inches. I'm going to do 9 inches for this piece so that it's way off. And then another piece that's about 19. Maybe? No. Picking out zipper tape is the hardest part. Like, do I want pink or just white? I think I'm gonna do white. Perfect. So I have all of my Zipper by the Yard stored in over-the-door shoe organizers, and then I use a separate pair of scissors exclusively to cut my zipper tape. So I'm going to quickly add my zipper pulls. I'm adding one to the shorter section of zipper tape. I'm going to be doing the zipper pocket a little bit differently than the pattern explains, just because I am not a fan of like zipping, unzipping, zipping, unzipping. I don't have enough skill to line my zippers up perfectly every time, and I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself, so I'm not gonna. Okay. So when you're attaching two zipper pulls, you want to make sure there's no bubble and your zipper tape sits as flush as possible with itself. Alright. So this becomes like a zippered slip pocket, which is pretty cool. So we are going to take zipper pocket 2, vertically up. Okay, this is the part that did not quite make sense to me. It's where, so she's like adding the lining to the zipper like you would with a zipper pocket overlay, so it would be like this and like this. So you would have to completely detach your zipper pull to add it. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of make it in the way that makes sense to me, and I'm gonna add right sides together for this piece, top stitch it, and then add the lining to the other side. Alright, that's dead. So I'm gonna use my double-sided tape. So if you would like to follow the pattern, please do. There is nothing wrong with these instructions, it's just not a way that makes sense to me. So we're going to start off with our zipper tape lined up with one edge and then completely off the edge on the other side. If your print is directional, you want this to be face up. And now the lining for the zipper pocket is smaller than your exterior slip pocket, and this is to prevent bulk within the seam allowance. So we just want to center that out. And we're sewing all the way. And I will need to change my bobbin soon. Okay, so I'm going to press that open, and I'm going to top stitch. And then I'm going to press this edge, I'm going to tape this free edge up to the top. Make sure that that sits nice and flat. Like that. And then this is going to get placed up at the top here. And then we'll kind of turn it right side out. And all we're gonna do is baste down these edges of that pocket. So here we go. And this creates a nice edge on the zipper pocket that is not within the bottom seam allowance, so that your binding is nice and clean. So top stitch that. Just gonna fold this up and out of the way and sew this shut. Only along the sides. And make sure you don't catch your exterior of that pocket. So you've got these little openings here, but like you're never gonna go that far within the pocket, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna flip this through. Okay, and then we're gonna sit this so that this seam here sits nice. Oh, this is the top. The top stitched one is the bottom. That would have been bad. So however this sits best for you is how it's gonna go. Just make sure that it's equidistant along this top edge. And clip, clip. And bring your zipper pull in. Okay, so I'm just going to sew the sides shut. And top stitch across this twice. So once along right next to the zipper, and then once along the very top. Oh, I did say I needed to change my bobbin, didn't I? Yes, I did. So I'm going to try to start back where it ended, which means I want to make sure I'm holding on to my bobbin thread and I pull my top thread up as far as I can. It's not always beautiful, but it works. Not bad. Okay, and then we're going to close off the other side. And then we can trim that excess zipper tape. Don't use your good scissors on that. And trim any excess threads. So then that is the inside of our zipper pocket. And then we'll attach that Here is the top, here's the bottom. And this one is 1.25 inches. And we're going to end up getting super close to the lining of that zipper pocket when we add the side panels, so I'm not going to be too concerned with that little gap at the zipper. Keep your zipper in the middle. And then this is the top. This is the very protruding roundy bit. And then the bottom is the very wide, shallow curve. And open that up and top stitch. So this creates a slip pocket up here, and then you've got a little zipper pocket down here. And then I'm just going to trim that little excess seam allowance. And then we can add this to our back panel. Oh, that's not where this goes. That's why things were so confused. So here is our slip pocket. Here is that zipper pocket, just so you can see what the lining looks like. Maybe I misunderstood the instructions, but I mean, that's not much of an issue. It's not going to pull away over time, and it's so far into the bag that it might not really matter. And this is me testing the bag, so it's possible another tester brought that up and it's been adjusted. Or like I said, I misunderstood. Oh. Alright, so now I'm going to line up my top edge of the exterior with the top edge of the lining with wrong sides together. And this is where it's going to get a little bulky. Just make sure you line everything up nicely. Okay, here we go. And then we're going to baste with 1/8 inch from the outside edge. Okay, let's see. Oh man. So my slip pocket and my zipper pocket are like almost identical with where they're located. So that is going to be not necessarily a problem, but it is adding a little bit of bulk to the bag currently. That's okay. So right now I'm just trimming up my lining and my exterior pieces to match. And then here is that lining attached. And there's my exterior. I can even kind of slip this in there if I needed to, but it's gonna distort the bag, so may as well not. All right, so then we need to work on the gusset. So for the gusset, there really isn't anything drastically different than any other gusset, so we're just gonna gusset it up. Gusset it up. Anyway, I'm gonna be adding double-sided tape. Yeah, I like that better. The other one, it was 2, same. I'm going to be adding 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape to the lining and exterior where I want my zipper to go. I prefer to use 1/8 inch wide for this so that it's in no way going to like pop up out of the seam allowance when I attach my zipper. And you're almost guaranteed to not sew through the 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape, which is nice. All right. So I'm gonna untape one end. Since I'm using a double zipper, it does not matter which end is which when I put this together. So I just want to make sure that I set the zipper down, but I'm not like pulling on it. I'm just making sure it's nice and straight. The double-sided tape helps me release any bubbles that might occur. I used to be a really big fan of ironing my zippers, and since my iron doesn't really work with steam anymore, I almost never iron, and it's been okay. Okay, so 3/8 inch seam allowance, or as close as you can get. And now, if you watched my cutting video, you know that I made my lining a little bit wider to adjust for the bulk. Haha. It never fails. Like, my lining always comes up a little bit short, so I cut it to 2 inches instead of what was instructed, and I feel like it's just gonna sit nicer. It's gonna give me that wiggle room because I can trim off the excess, no problem. So I'm pulling away these layers and making sure that sits nice and flat on itself. And trimming any excess. Okay. And then just going to repeat that on the other side. Right sides together for the exterior. Flip that over, add your lining so that linings are right sides together. And if you want to, you can iron open this seam as well, or even tape it in the direction you need it to go. Got that top stitched. And now we're gonna add our gusset pieces. So I'm gonna pull my zipper pulls into the exterior. I'm gonna grab one of my lining pieces and lay that flush to the edge. Clip it in place. And then lining, exterior right sides together. Lay that over top of the zipper panel. And then this is a 3/8 inch seam allowance to sew those together. And then she has a little tip. If you would like to, you can sew through this area one more time. I'm going to fold this open and top stitch just through my exterior and my lining seam. And if you wanted to, you could add like a little D-ring tab to this section to put keychains off of if you wanted, but it would not be good as a crossbody because the zipper panel is so wide. It would likely distort the bag and it would kind of sit weird if it's too low. So like I said, I know the lining on my panel is a little bit big, so I'm lining it up with my exterior pieces. So I'm going to clip that together, lay the exterior gusset piece over top of all that, and then it's that 3/8 inch seam allowance. Watch out for your clip. Trimming down my excess zipper tape just by a little bit, not by a ton. I like to have about 1/2 inch to 1 inch within my seam allowance just to prevent the zipper from coming loose. You just never know. And then I'm opening this up, top stitching through my exterior only. This is not part of the pattern. She has you top stitch through both. It's just my personal preference. And we're going to open this, lay it flat so that linings are touching, exteriors are touching. And we're just going to kind of pull on those layers so it sits nicely. And I'm clipping and rolling. So that my layers stay nice and even. And then if for some reason my lining is a little bit bigger because I didn't top stitch through it, I have some wiggle room to kind of fold it up onto itself if need be. And now we can top stitch all the way around this loop. I like to do it with the exterior side down. And then I'm going to trim my excess lining. It kind of mentions that your pattern piece might be a little bit tapered at the zipper panel. Mine is not, but that's just down to seam allowances. Mine might have differed slightly from hers at some point. And then trimming all that lining again. And then I'm gonna fold the zipper panel, or the zipper gusset, in half now to find my centers. So yeah, if you had tried to make this into a crossbody, like with that being there, the center of gravity wants to pull it downward. So that was not the intention for this bag. I just wanted to let you know if for some reason you wanted to convert it or something, it would not work. I think I said this when I was making a bunch of Guardians with cork. Like, it's such an underrated material. Well, in my eyes. It's so expensive, but like, ooh, it's so nice to work with. Okay. So now you can decide if you want to start with your front or your back panel, but we're going to be putting this all together. All together now. All together now. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the back, just because I think it's going to be the bigger pain in the butt. So this is the top of my zipper gusset because I can see my zipper. And this is the top of my bag. So we're gonna start by clipping that together. And once you know that main point, if you want to, you can do a little basting stitch to hold that in place. And we'll repeat that with the bottom exterior as well. Which would have been nice had I snipped it, but I don't think I did. Did I? No. No, I did not. Pulled that out like it was a sword. It's like, whoa. Okay. So now we need to clip all this together. Make sure your hardware's out of the way. I'm going to start with like my bottom curves. You will need to snip into your seam allowance just a teeny tiny bit. I recently learned that if you do not have to snip your gusset, then it's too big. I was like, oh, well, okay then. I never knew. Luckily, because the gusset is wider, because the zipper top part of the gusset is longer than the bottom, I'm not worried about this bulk lining up with our back slip pocket. Once again, that is not part of the pattern. Just felt like it really needed it. Okay, so then we're going to need to snip into the top curve of the bag as well. Clearly, my gusset don't want none. Unless you got snips, hun. And you really want to be careful with those snips and what fabric, or with the little relief snips that you're creating and the materials you've picked. If it's going to be something that's going to like fray really bad over time, just be careful. Add fray check if you need to, etc. So what I'm doing to help me clip this bag is I'm pushing it off the edge of the table so that I can slide my clip in while keeping the gusset where I've placed it. And then I'm going to baste this all the way around, making sure that my hardware is out of the way. And you can use a stiletto, hemostats. I like my screwdriver to help keep those layers together and save your fingies. Make sure if this is the side with your zipper pocket that your zipper pull is in the middle of your bag, or you might be sad. And then after this, I'm going to add my binding to this side. And just double check that you've caught all your seams. Looks good. And then I'm gonna grab my binding and then what I call binding buddy tape, which I'm running low on. Go ahead and use a little matchy print here. Oh, measure it out. I'll have to go get more. This is a very unorthodox method of attaching binding, so if it's not your preferred method, that's okay. Do what works for you. Oh my god, a relic. Okay. And when I'm doing this, I only unpeel a little bit of tape at once to wrap around the edge, making sure that I've got more along the bottom than the top. And just pushing into place and pinching. Clipping as I go as well, and then I'm pulling tape off a little bit at a time. If you pull your tape off all at once, that's a bad day. Okay. So I've got the tape in my hand and the binding, and I'm just pulling and wrapping around. I am eyeballing what the center is, so if you want to, you could always fold it first or even mark it on the wrong side so that you know where it is when you're folding, but I can eyeball it, not to brag. And then your strap might not be as bulky as mine. Mine's pretty bulky because I added that cork overlay, but I regret nothing. This kind of looks so good. Okay, and then that last little bit, I'm just gonna fold under and wrap around. Like that. Okay, we'll sew that into place. And then double check from the other side that you've caught everything. Looks good. And then just repeat on the opposite side of your bag now. All right, let's turn this bad boy. So there is the lining. Here is that slip pocket, zipper pocket, card slots, big slip pocket. So tons of pockets inside. Did I need to add an exterior pocket? No, but I wanted to, okay? Fingers crossed that the shape of this bag looks as good as the pictures make it, but I have done my best. Ooh, yeah. So you just want to make sure that you are pressing into the corners as much as you can to get that binding to sit nicely. And then on that back panel, same. It's such a cute little like eggy shape. So here is the inside. You can see card slots, zipper and slip pocket. So tons of room in there. It's actually really spacious. And there it is, all zipped. And sometimes on the corners and with binding in general, you just need to like train the bag, so you could even clip it or stuff it full of what you need to. I'm trying to think if I wish now that I had added Sophie's Plus into that gusset, but I don't think so. I think it sits nicely, and if I had, it may not have sat as beautifully as it does. So here is that slip pocket on the back. Oh yeah, I am a fan of that. And then this is how I decided to attach the D-rings on the back, which since you're this far in the video, you probably know that. And then you clip it, and then you can adjust it. Try not to hit my microphone. And that is what it looks like worn on the front. It's so cute. So that's a little silly there, but it's kind of a fun, nope, can't even see it. But I do like that I use this little bit of cork to kind of tie it into the fanciness of the bag. I feel like this being all pink would have been just a little bit much. If I could see that, well, when it's down here, like if you were to wear it almost to the side fanny pack style, you might be able to read that. But I really love the shape of this bag. I love the way it comes together. Getting templates for this bag would make it go much faster as far as cutting. And I don't think I would add foam unless I were quilting that front panel. And then definitely don't add any Decaville heavy, because you're just going to make it even harder to add that binding and turn. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I loved making this sophisticated sling from Rosa, and I will see you guys in my next one.